welcome back. This is By the Book, and we're your married relationship coaches. I'm Sent.
I'm Sil.
And today we're talking about Married at First Sight, season 16, right?
Yes.
Episode, I'm getting lost, y'all. Y'all know we missed a couple of weeks and we struggling. But we're on season 16, episode 18, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to just talk a little bit about Kirsten and Shaq and where they are. Last week, I think we talked about how, I don't know, there seems to be a dynamic that's happening between the two of them that's not fully captured on camera for us to see. We know it's happening because they're kind of talking about it, but we're not really seeing it as far as like in their interactions and when they're doing group activities and stuff like that. So it carried on through this week with a couple of highlights. I mean, I guess just touching on some of the problems that they're having. Kirsten seems very, I don't know, maybe discouraged about where they are.
Yeah, I can say that and agree, yeah.
And I think, personally, it seems like she's taking a good attitude because she's not, like, flying off the rails like I feel like I would in this situation. Because Shaquille is frustrating. He's very frustrating to me. I'm kind of just really tired of him whining. And I know we got some Team Shaq folks, and that's okay. You know, because y'all can probably deal with that better than me. But baby, my patience. So, anyhow, I think Kirsten starts off talking to her brother.
Yes.
And I thought it was interesting. You guys let us know what you think. But just to kind of assess the personality and the type of man that her brother is or seems to be, very, very different, very distinctly different from the type of man that Shaquille is. Her brother presents in a more, I don't know, maybe hardened, urban kind of way, maybe a little bit more than Shaq does. And it's starting to inform me in terms of like, remember when she said that Shaq, or she kind of alluded to the fact that Shaq's not that masculine.
Yes.
Right? So now I'm observing her brother and I'm thinking, okay, her dad is probably along those same lines. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, he's a man who's a totally different type of man than what she's grown up around.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably part of what lends itself to her questioning, like, him being masculine. Maybe a little bit. But, I mean, he's got effeminate tendencies in his own right.
He does.
He doesn't even have to just be a little bit different from her brother and her dad.
Yeah.
Like, he has his own, like, set of feminine qualities that, not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but for a lot of women, it's a challenge to get over. But seeing the stark contrast between her brother's just presentation and Shaq's presentation, I'm like, okay, he's really not the type of man that she's accustomed to.
Yeah, I can probably agree with that. Different presentation, different masculine vibe coming from the brother. Yeah, but I on the other side of that, I think he, I wouldn't necessarily say I agree with everything that he gave to his sister as far as advice, but I would say that you can tell that he cared, and you can tell that he cared about the information that he was giving to her. I think he listened to her and was just like, okay, and gave what he had to say. And from that, I give him kudos.
Yeah, certainly not a bad guy. He didn't present poorly, just very differently from Shaq and who he is. So, you know, to me, that gave me some insight into Kirsten and who she is and what she may be looking for. But with that said, I feel like she's pretty patient with Shaq and who he is, because he's, I can't say this enough, he's so different. He's so like kind of more metrosexual. He's kind of whiny, a little, sassy. It's just no, for a lot of women, it's no.
Yeah, I mean, well, starting out the season, most of y'all know that I was kind of Team Shaq. I thought that Kirsten was coming off as very picky, not really wanting to give the process an opportunity. And, she's come around and I had to kind of like revamp, some of my preconceived ideas, I guess, her going into the season. But now I'm flip-flopping. This Shaq guy, I mean, stop the complaining, stop the whining, stop the groaning. And then, like you're saying, I mean, on top of all of that, he does present pretty feminine at times. And I'm not saying that that's holistically a bad thing, but I just don't feel like a man's femininity should
lead him.
No, yes, but it should not. His femininity shouldn't overshadow Kirsten femininity.
Yes, and she's having to hold them together, and I've seen her do that for weeks and weeks and weeks now. It was interesting. I think that Shaq is still very doubtful in terms of, I guess he doesn't believe that she can't get her family to meet him. I don't know if he thinks that she's embarrassed of him or what it may be, or she just doesn't feel like they're going to make it past decision day, so she doesn't think it's worth it. She seems to have a dad, just from some of the things she said, who's very stubborn. Yeah. Remember, he wouldn't come to the wedding, if I'm not mistaken, because he didn't want to get the COVID shot. Or something like that. So, he's a stubborn, old school kind of guy. And you can't make them do anything.
That is true.
I can tell you that. I got one of those dads. You can't make them do anything. So, him not understanding that, her family is very different from his family. He's like, yeah, my family is basically Johnny on the spot. They're going to support me through whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's wonderful, Shaq. I mean, some people have that, some people don't. But his inability to, like, see things from a different lens, than his own is frustrating.
It is very frustrating because even in his confessional, he's saying that that's weird. Her family is weird. Their family dynamic is weird. But then when Kirsten began to share some receipts on how he engages with her on a personal level, private level, obviously when they're not filming, I mean, he's standoffish. He's not really talking to her. And basically kind of like showing her that he probably don't even really want to be there. But see, in the same note, he can say that her family dynamic is weird, but he doesn't pick up on the fact that his interaction with her is weird.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're sitting there, you're not engaging, you're not trying to get to know her on a much more deeper, intimate level. You're not conversing with her. Shaq, that's weird. And you have more control over that than what she does over her family.
That's very true, because he's him. He's the only one who's deciding whether he wants to walk in the house. And I know she was probably upset that day because she had cooked some food for him. If you guys watched the show, this episode, and she offered him some food, and he's just like, I'm fine. And kept walked out of the room. And then they showed another clip where he kind of just barely acknowledged her and walked out of the room. So when she's saying, I need you to make me feel like you like me. Yeah. And honestly, y'all, I feel like he's still bitter from that initial rejection. Yes. So I'm not going to say whether or not you should be able to get over something or you shouldn't. That's not for me to say. But if you can't, then you need to be honest about that and just be like, that was too much for me. I'm checked out, Don't try to pretend like you're doing everything that you're supposed to do. So I think when her mom actually was the one who showed up, and when her mom sat and talked with them, I think he did acknowledge a little bit. He said he's not his best self.
Yeah.
Right? So he is seeing at least a little bit of the fact that he's withdrawn in this relationship a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, he even brought up the analogy of her taking her bricks down and him using those bricks to build a wall up.
I thought that was very insightful. I actually like him saying that.
I don't really want to give him credit for insight, but I don't know if he's built a wall, but he's definitely has a grudge, sort of about the way he felt. I think if she had been immediately drawn to him from the beginning, we wouldn't be seeing this version of Shaq.
I think eventually we would have.
You think so?
Or I think eventually Kirsten would have, because not everything is going to be perfect. Not every situation, not every circumstance is going to be without bumps in the road. This is marriage. This is what marriage is about. It is nice. It is wonderful. It is a beautiful union between a man and a woman, but it's not always perfect. Mm-hmm. The union becomes perfect over time because you begin to go through things and you begin to share with one another and get deeper with one another. That's what makes it a beautiful union. But starting out, a lot of times, you're going to have some hiccups. And how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to go through it and become more closer to that person? How are you going to learn how to have grace, with a person, have mercy in the relationship? And so eventually that was going to become a hiccup, a bump in the road that he wasn't going to be able to deal with. Then he was going to shut down, build his wall, or however he wanted to say it, because this is how he's dealing with things. Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's who he is. I feel like there was something particular about him being forced to wait or forced to remember that episode when he didn't want things to be on her terms.
Yeah.
Her dictating to him when something could happen or how it could happen in terms of their intimacy or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. I think he particularly wasn't okay with that. I don't know if that's because he hadn't experienced in the past that type of rejection, or because he had experienced a lot of that rejection. I could see it being the latter rather than the former, because he just has a personality that I think might initially be off-putting to a certain type of woman. Mm. So if he was interested in those women, I could see many of them kind of rejected him a bit, and then when it came to Kirsten, here he is thinking he's got to alley-oop because I'm on Married at First Sight, so she's going to come into this thing not judging me, and boom, he already feels judged.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All I know is that it's hard to watch. It's like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah. Because they should be in a different place than where they are, but they can't get past it. And he seems to nitpick, I think, a lot of little things with her. And like you said, not with the ability to be self-reflective and see, hey, there's things that I'm not really doing very well, because I think he felt he started so strong on the front end, I was all in, now she owes me, she got to win me back.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I mean, you know what? I haven't used this all season long, so I'm just going to say it now. Shaq, you're getting on my nerve. It doesn't say you're getting on my nerve. Grow up,
And I think it's really telling that they're not having conversations about beyond decision day. And Kirsten brought that up as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that there's no chance. I had such high hopes. I definitely immediately was put off or nervous about his feminine energy. Mm-hmm. I'm quick to pick up on that because I'm one of those women that is, kind of immediately off put by stuff like that. But I was like, ooh, whoever he gets matched up with, I don't know if they're going to be able to take that or not. Yeah. But after getting past that, I'm like, well, maybe. They're a good looking couple. They seem driven in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe they match up well, but this is awful.
Yes, it is.
It's horrible.
It is. It is. You know, one thing you didn't touch on, but when they went to the church and they sat in an empty church building, that was kind of strange for me. But anyway,
you know, they had to do it for the camera.
You know, why did they just film them actually going to a worship service? But anyway, it's kind of strange them just being in an empty church building. No,
they probably didn't get permission for all of that.
They got permission to sit in there by themselves. I mean, because if
it was other parishioners in there, then it would have been like, you got to block out everybody's face. You can't, you know, you got to get their permission to be on television. If you're not blocking out their face, I wouldn't have done it either. I'd have been like, look, y'all want to be in a church, here you go.
They got dressed up to go sit in a church by themselves.
They probably stayed for the service once everybody showed up.
I'm done.
Anyway, your point about the church.
That made absolutely no sense to me. But, okay, so they sat in the church, they began to talk. He still was very disconnected as far as I'm concerned. He was doing the heiress. He wasn't really even looking at her. He was looking down, looking around, and all that different type of stuff. And I just want to kind of tie that into her brother was saying to her, Kirsten's brother was saying to her that he has all of these things kind of like going on and whatever. My advice would be to him and to her is you got to prioritize what comes first. And the marriage should always come first. I know that my wife really doesn't consider it a real marriage until after decision day. But just for the sake of argument of saying that this is an actual marriage, the marriage has to come first. I understand you working on your doctorate. I understand you have a job. I understand you have all of these lofty goals, and by all means, accomplish them, but not at the detriment of your marriage. Your marriage has to come first, period. If it doesn't come first, it's not going to work. And whoever told you that it would, they lied.
He don't care anymore. He knows that the sand is almost up in that side of the hourglass. And once it is, they get to walk away from one another.
Yeah.
And they consummated their marriage. So he gets to walk away with that as a consolation prize. So
I guess so. It must have took a lot of willpower for her to go through with that one, especially how he's been acting. He's been acting nasty. Yeah, nasty. Yeah, that's what he's been acting. Just horrible.
All right, guys. Well, let us know your thoughts about Shaq and Kirsten. It's sad to say, but I'm almost tired of talking about them because it's wash, rinse, repeat every episode now, and they're not going anywhere. Those wheels are spinning, but they aren't moving.
No.
So if you got an opinion outside of that, please, we would love to hear it. If you think they're gonna say yes, I will be shocked.
Yeah.
Shocked.
If anyone can still defend Shaq right now, you know what? I would love to defend them because I was defending them early on in the season. He's giving me nothing to defend. And so if you still have a defense, if any of you have a defense for Shaq, please leave it in the comments. If I can come back over to Team Shaq, maybe y'all can win.
Yeah, because I was Team Kirsten, so I'm trying to keep him over there, Team Shaq. Don't come over here. Don't be no Johnny come lately over to this camp. Anyway.
You gotta know when to jump ship. It's going down. It's going down.
Drop those comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.